to my session on smashing stereotypes in the media, and I am Nick Ponsford from the Global Equality Collective. As you can see, I am one of the co-founders. There is my other founder, Kat Wildman, and there am I, Nick Ponsford. I've been teaching in education for the last 20 years. We came together about 3 years ago with quite a single-minded desire to get smashing stereotypes for all the characteristics of the Equalities Act, all 9, plus socioeconomics and single parents. And within that time, we have now created an online community of over 15,000. We also have our collective of subject matter experts, of which I would invite you all to come and join us if you're interested. We've got over 250, and they really help us understand what different lived experiences there are out there, the expertise, the latest research, what's happening at a grassroots level, and everything that's happening in homes, schools and businesses. The GEC collective, we've also got an advisory board, as you can see here, some of the best people out there that help advise us and steer us in the right direction. So today I want to talk to you about smashing stereotypes. With Global Equality Collective, we look at all the different characteristics that are in equalities and go beyond. And when it comes to the media, we see an awful lot in terms of where things go wrong. We also know the influence that this can have on other people as well. So today, I'd like to talk to you about smashing stereotypes in the media. A stereotype is a widely held but fixed and oversimplified image or idea. Stereotypes are based on assumptions that our brain does a mental shortcut for us. Essentially, the brain tries to process 50 million pieces of information a second. Of those, 11 million. Of those, 50 are really taken in and a further 7 are really understood. So when it comes to a stereotype, it's basically our mind trying to make shortcuts for us. And with those stereotypes become expectations of what someone will say or do or think or believe or act. When we see people and we have a stereotype about them, they will either approve or disapprove that stereotype we have. At the GEC, we're all about getting rid of stereotypes and trying to understand people for the individuals they are and give them the opportunities that they would need. We believe that otherwise the labels can limit you. And that's why we like to get smashing stereotypes. One of the ways that we do smashing stereotypes is with our youth channel. So as well as the GEC website, which I hope you'll check out if you haven't already, we've also got our GEC Smashing Stereotypes, which is smashingstereotypes.co.uk. We felt when it came to diversity and inclusion, there was an awful lot of grown-ups talking about it, but not a lot of young people. So here we've got lots of different ideas. We've got a competition running at the moment, if you pop over and have a look, and it's an element that we're really excited about. Okay, so why are there still these gaps with gender? Why are there still these stereotypes? So we're going to have a little look through some bits and bobs. Okay, so here we go. Gender differences seem to happen even from before children are born. One of the things that is quite interesting to me personally is that I've got 5-year-old twins, a girl and a boy. So it's been like my science experiment. We know from looking at the neuroscience that actually there's no difference when it comes to the neurological pathways for children. We also know up until the age of 11 or when puberty kicks in, there are no differences with brain development or muscle development. So gender comes in more about social values than anything else. So when it comes to advertising, we can see that these stereotypes play out. And that, though they might look quite harmless to some, we're now starting to realise the implications that this has on others. All the different messages that we receive around advertising illustrate how people should be a certain way and the labels that we have around them. Here we've got a few examples of what happened with girls, and we can see this played out as they get older as well. We can see this in terms of the toys that they have, the clothes that we give them, and what we're trying to illustrate that they need to be as they grow up. The messaging, although seemingly harmless, is repeated and repeated and repeated and repeated. So take a moment and consider how the advertising you might have in your home or the advertising that is around you has either created an impact on yourself or on those around you. And here we have the research that comes out, the messages that we're given as we grow up. But it's not just the girls, the boys are affected as well. Here we have just very, very clear, very obvious, very normal advertising with a clear messaging again for boys. It becomes interesting when we start to break this down, when we look at it against Me Too or the events and the outrage that's happened in the last few months. The difference with how to save girls, but don't be like them, to be ahead of everyone else, to be a leader, to be a hero. I'd like to just take a moment to have a look how this plays out against with a comparison with young people, just because they tend to be a different gender or identified through their sex as a different gender, what the implications are for them from us as adults. So what happens with the stereotypes? What happens when we step out of these? Normally you can be met with disapproval. So when we think about sports and young people, there are things that we're used to seeing and maybe not so used to seeing. Some people will embrace this, some people won't. The next thing I want to look at is the use of body image and the stereotype that body image really only impacts girls. We know that this isn't the case, and I'm sure that those of you listening now will know that not to be true too. But there does seem to be a kind of movement at the moment of being able to identify where these codes and conventions kind of come from. And what was really interesting to me, I've taught multimedia for over a decade, was helping the students to deconstruct the media, deconstruct the messages they were given, and then they would construct their own as either BTEC, GCSE or A-level students. But what I found quite interesting is then when you speak to the grown-ups, when you speak to the teachers or speak to the parents, they may not have this kind of understanding of media literacy. And actually, it's very important for us all to understand what's happening in our own homes or how we're teaching, the messages that are maybe in our classrooms or in our schoolrooms, what we can do to change that. I found this one quite interesting. Just to change with one word, but the implications that has. And interestingly enough, when I took my little ones out for a walk and when I was sort of moving around in a buggy, I would get told how smart my little boy was, how clever he was, and how pretty my little girl was. If we take this back forward a little bit further, we can start to see in advertising that the clear messages that there are. I just picked these out as just you know, not really to make any point in a way, but actually it's quite clear the way that the women are having to present themselves against how the men are. And actually the implications when you think about the terms that I had in earlier, what that then means, those kind of to be beautiful and around appearance, or to be a leader and to be strong, and what these images now convey to us. And just as important to look at how we know women are represented, but also to think about what happens with men too. One of the things I find really interesting, and one of the things the ASA brought up when they started to bring in the new regulations and codes around how adverts are meant to stereotype or not stereotype, was those around dads, for example. That dads are all meant to be pretty useless as parents. And the messages this has to men and also to the boys. We also are very used to seeing advertising, not just on television, but as we walk around, and how these images, as we walk around with our children, the impact on them of these too. When it comes to the dads on television, they're normally represented as either violent heroes behind the scenes or bumbling buffoons. But actually, when we think about how men are depicted in the media, actually modern men aren't normally seen. You can see from the data here that you're more likely to see the sort of pretty boy, ladies man, macho man, then you're less likely to see the hard-working, the good-hearted and the fatherly, which actually, you know, men are too. You're more likely to see also the kind of comparison that there's still this kind of binary representation. So if you're a male at home, you know, you're there almost looking like a woman, would be stereotypically, and vice versa. There doesn't seem to be a kind of, you can have a little bit of everything, which actually is, you know, more likely to the reality of today. And I think particularly around what's been happening with COVID and people working from home and learning from home and looking at flexible working more, we are seeing a kind of blur of these stereotypes. I wanted to look a little bit now, kind of moving away from those ideas sort of around toxic masculinity and gender, and think about racial stereotypes in the media as well. Again, we have the assumptions, expectations, and this kind of way that we'd approve or disapprove. I would suggest, if you have got time, that you'd have a look on BBC iPlayer. Have a huge range of brilliant programmes. They've Got to Have Us is a fantastic look at racial stereotypes, particularly around Hollywood and film. I thought I'd just have a quick look at what happens when you put in famous film directors. It's not hard to see what comes up straight away. And what's really interesting when you think of the best films that have been around in the last few years, and even the big franchises like Fast and Furious, actually, you know, they're not white. And when you look at the figures around what the customers would be, what the audiences are like, they are not white. So what the media industry at the moment is starting to really understand, that they need to have a kind of a global equality when it comes to the representation of their actors. But also it's very important to think about the people sort of behind the scenes as well. When I was working in digital media, what we try to do is bring in opportunities for all students. We did a lot of work working with kind of recording studios, with a lot of community groups, bringing a lot of industry experts in as well. So students, never mind their ethnicity, their heritage, their socioeconomic status, that they would all have a go at trying to gain those skills. And I do think it's really important, it's what Joaquin Phoenix said back in 2020, that we are sending a very clear message to people that they're not welcome. And we want to ensure that people want to be appreciated and respected for their work. But also that we need to make sure that we are trying to make sure that we are opening opportunities to everyone, to all students when it comes to this. If you have a look at the best BAFTAs as well, you might notice that we then go into that gender difference again. And in fact, we've only got one female. My hope is moving forward, the digital arts in particular will start to illustrate that global equality that we want to bring in. When it comes to stereotypes, one of the things we know in particular, that boys are not seen or taught to be encouraged to become emotionally literate. We are taught that they have to man up, that they don't cry. The implications of this we're seeing more and more when it comes to research and the press. We get told it's in their nature.
Hello, baby.
But I would say that they're also, we have these messages going through their entire education. So when it comes to the curriculum and role models, I just Googled authors Then I googled best sports athletes. It's interesting when we think about stereotypes when it comes to uniform. If you Google schoolboy, you can look at the adverts and the ideas that come through here. You might want to brace yourself when I put in schoolgirl. Like a lot of them left school quite a while ago, I would say. But interestingly, when it comes to the issues with uniform, it isn't the girls' problem. We get an awful lot of messaging around this, that girls do want to wear trousers, that actually it's because the boys might have inappropriate thoughts. I want you to think about the implication that has on all boys and all girls, with adults talking in this way. So I'd like to go back to those expectations we had at the start. When we're thinking about the differences when it comes to gender, when we're thinking about the differences when it comes to stereotypes, all these different messages that we're trying to put out there, all these different things that the young people are absorbing. Are these right? Is this what we want for the future? The global equality is all about solutions. We know it's hard. We want to make it easy. I call it the Kaplunk model. For all of these issues that we've got around stereotypes, there's lots of balls and straws, lots of different reasons and excuses for why they're there. So what we've done is we've spent the last 3 years trying to break that down and make diversity and inclusion easy for homeschools and businesses. We want to open up these things to everyone, that everyone can be like this, and the strengths of everyone are embraced and celebrated. If you want to have a little bit more look at our work and look at our values, we've got the GEC Manifesto on our website. And I'm really thrilled that we've now got schools that are using it as a backbone to their work. We've also on the website, we've got lots and lots of free materials. We've got the biggest collection of books, the GEC Best Books list, everything you could want for babies through to adults. We've also got materials to help parents and to help teachers. This is a great one that looks at consent through early years all the way through. We also have lots of printables that can help early years and beyond. We're really keen to get smashing stereotypes when it comes to all different pathways and all types of family environments. At the moment, you might have seen, we are doing a big focus on boys. We've looked at girls and women in STEM in 2019 and 2020. And last month, we've launched our boys retreat with several members from our collective. In this, on our webpage, you will see lots of free materials, and we're about to put out a programme of webinars and podcasts coming very soon. So if you'd like to get involved, please let me know. In the collective as well, we've got great organisations like Outspoken Sex Ed. On their websites, they've got a huge range of materials that can help with everything that I've talked about today, including body image. In this, they've also got links out to all the best information that's out there to save you time, all the best reports, and also lots of interactive ways that you can use with your students as well. In this one, I particularly liked, they looked at how Photoshop can help around images, and I was really pleased that they actually looked at men rather than women in this as well, and that's a great one to show students. The other solution that the GEC have, we have created something called the GEC app, which is a combination of all our work, all our best research. In this, we know that you are the expert in your organisation, you know your students, you know your staff the best. What we do is we bring our resources to you to help you with everything that comes to smashing stereotypes. Within it, there is training on all of these different elements, plus more. We've already got numerous schools, trusts and local authorities that have come on board. We only launched in January, and we've already got 35,000 students that we've reached, which I'm very humbled and very proud of. It's got a few simple steps. The first step is a self-assessment for you and your organisation that the GEC champion can do, normally someone on the SLT team. The step 2 is a staff assessment for all your staff, so you can understand how they feel around your practice and policies. Your results are immediate and RAG rated. You can qualify for one of our quality marks, and we have a full suite of e-training. All the e-learning modules are linked into our 14 different areas. All of our work covers the 9 characteristics of the Equalities Act, plus socioeconomic status and single parent rights. And all of the data that you get are filterable by those characteristics. If you want more information on this, let me know. No one else is doing this. We are, and we would like to do it with you. The information is easy to read, is thorough. We have filters on everything. It is designed by school leaders for school leaders. Our e-learning hub is meant to look like a sweet shop. It's everything you could possibly want to help you cover diversity and inclusion, and we're adding new things all the time. Going in before the end of the summer, we've got a unit on Gypsy Romany travellers, on women's health and neurodiversity. All of our e-learning modules have 10 easy steps. They are all funky, they're all exciting, because that's what you deserve in education. And we try to be ahead of the curve. So the last ones we put in a couple of weeks ago around socioeconomic status to help with schools trying to close gaps after lockdown and help students who are underprivileged and under-resourced. Behind this is our collective action tank. All our work is QA'd through people with lived experience and those who are leading the charge in these areas. And there is further signposting to their work if you want to do more with them. As I say, you can qualify for one of our marks when you do it. And it's going down pretty well. I'll give you a moment just to have a look at those. Thank you. So that was a very quick whiz through smashing stereotypes in the media. I hope when you put the television on later or watch a film, my voice will be ringing through your head. If there's anything that you'd like me to help you with more, I would absolutely love to. I've put my details in the chat. I will pop there in a moment and pick up any messages. But thank you so much for joining me, and I hope it's been of benefit. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nick. Bye.